วัสดีครับได้ยินเสี
ค่ะ
ยงผ
ได้ยินไหม
มไหมครับ
ครับ
ได้ยินชัดเจนครับ
โอเค
สวัสดี
เดี๋ยวพี่
ครับ
เพิ่มเสียงฝั่งพี่อัน
โอ
ตี้
เค
ครับ
ครับได้ครับผม
โอเคลองอีกทีค่ะได้ยินไหม
ได้ยินชัดเจนเลยครับ
โอเค perfect
ครับผมโอเคครับ
โอเคได้งั้นเดี๋ยวพี่ปิด
ได้
กล้องไว้ก่อน
โอเคครับอันนี้
โอ
ตัว
เค
สไลด์
ค่ะ
ได้
อ่าคันคลิกให้พี่แล้วกันเนาะแล้วเดี๋ยว
ได้เลยค
พี่จะได้บอก
รับผม
next อะไรอย่างเงี้ยนะจ๊ะ
ได้เลยครับดี
โอเค
เลยครับขอบ
เนี่ยอาจารย์ส
คุณครับ
มิธอยู่เมืองจีนเหรอ
ใช่ครับผม
แก
ใช่ครับ
ก็เก๋นะโอเคจ้ะเดี๋ยว
ครับผม
เจอกัน
ครับเจอกัน
จ้ะ
ครับสวัสดีครับ Good evening ครับ everyone
Good evening อาจารย์
อ่าโอเค I'm TA ครับผมอาจารย์สมิธ
อ๋อ
go to
Good
go to
evening
China
โอ้
yes
โอ้ Hello Hello
ฮัลโหลสวัสดีครับโอเคครับโอ เคครับ Good evening ครับ everyone อ่า โอ
วัน
เค
นี้
ครับ ครับ
Evening, everyone. If you don't mind, please turn your camera on, and if you don't have a makeup on, you can blur. You can blur the camera. Okay. Well, I guess we should start on time, and then we may recap if someone else join a little bit later. Well, it's my great pleasure to have this annual presentation to the communications department, the English uh, master degree on communications, and today the topic will be communication counseling. Let me briefly introduce myself, just to start so that you know the context where I come from. I'm 57 years old. I uh, sort of early retired from my full-time job. I used to be with the Bank of Thailand for 25 years, and I finished as a spokesman of the Bank of Thailand, of the central bank. I represented Thailand at the International Monetary Fund for a couple of years. I also work as a head of international strategy at the Stock Exchange of Thailand for 3 years, and I headed a consulting company called Bolliger and Company, which work on public policy. So I've known Dr. Smith for must be 20 years. And it's my pleasure to be sharing my experience with you. So what I offer to you is not really, lecture or knowledge, but my perspective on communication counseling. Today I'm holding 4 name cards. One is I'm executive committee member of Lifelong Learning College at Chiang Mai University, where I now retired, and I now honorary an honorary advisor of the Bad Burgers, which is the art experience design for corporate branding. If you're interested, I'll tell you a bit later at the end. And then I also a senior counselor of Enterprise Thailand, which you see the video at the end that we are like a little bit like a lobbyist, but we don't say exactly that we are. And then the last one, I'm still working briefly as an advisor for Bolliger and Company. So let me start. We'll be spending like about an hour together, right? So I'll be talking perhaps about 45 minutes. And then, but please feel free to interrupt anytime if you have a question. So it's better to have a sharing discussion. Uh, the topic today is communication counseling, and I like to highlight to you that it consists of two components. One is strategy, and the second is the communications for specific goals. So when you work as a counselor, you have to have a very clear terms of reference or scope of work, because your price you receive your money according to your scope of work, right? And it's quite difficult a lot of times, because when you work, there's like mission creep. People want you to do more like ของแถม that's Thai, that's like a little extra, but if you have a very clear scope of work, then it's easy to be an advisor. Now the difference between strategic communication and marketing and PR is very, very clear, because uh, PR is just like providing public relations, providing advertising, providing information, and marketing is to provide incentives, provide activities, so as to solicit sales and revenues. But strategic communication is very clear that it has to be led by strategy. And strategy is the direction of the company, the brand promise that the company gives to their customers. But it combines with the communication so that communication delivers the strategy. Now, in providing the promise, the gi- in realizing the promise you give to your customers, really it's the brand. So strategy communication is a tool for delivering branding. And branding for me, in my 10 years of working on branding, it's really quite simple. I mean, it can be very sophisticated, but when you go down to the basic, branding consists of just two things. One is relevance, and the other is differentiation. Now, how are you different from other people or other brands that are providing the service or the goods? And how relevant are you? Now, at the moment, I'm working on what is called cultural diplomacy. Cultural diplomacy is something, let's say, if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the foreign or the Thai embassies in abroad want to showcase Thailand brand. Now, if they bring the Thai classical dance, it's certainly very different, but it's not relevant, right? Because it's not like yoga. Yoga, you can do it at home afterwards, after you see it. But Thai classical dance, you don't do it, right? So if something is different but it's not relevant, it's not really something that really strategic communication or branding. So when you have your customer, or when you propose you go and do some pitching, you have to be very, very clear that how different you are from other competitors and how relevant you are from their strategy, from their operations. So marketing activities is just a subset of the overall integrated communications or strategic communications. And when you work on this, there are several aspects that you have to think about. One is who is or are the communicators of the organization that you're going to be advising. In a lot of the companies, it should be the CEO, right? Or the CFO, or at least a spokesperson. But some of the times, especially in the Thai context, the leaders of a lot of organizations, they don't want to talk to the press. They don't want to present themselves. And in the Thai culture, sometimes the staff tries to please their boss, right? And then the boss doesn't come out. But the real asset or the real value of strategic communication is to provide the relevant communicator, right? And second is the message. Is the message that message is not information. Information is not message. Uh, but you can design a message out of the information. Many years ago, when I headed the communication department of the Bank of Thailand, and then I had to draft a press release for uh, closing a bank. And I don't know anything at all about this bank, and I don't know anything about the deal that it's being made. So what I did was asking a lot of questions, right? So when you ask a lot of questions, when you pretend that you are like news people, what kind of things you want to ask? What are the things that they're afraid you're hiding, right? It's the hidden information that you don't provide that are most valuable, and people would like to know that. So the messages have to cater to a lot of interest in information, and you also have to know how to answer questions. In my years at the central bank, I had the opportunity of visiting the communication team of Governor Mervyn King of the Bank of England. And I spent time talking to them, and they say that every time before Governor King went to the press conference, he always rehearsed. That's part of the job of the communication counselor. It's not just the strategy, the message, the design, but you have to rehearse who is going to speak, right? Because otherwise everything will fail, because it's like you're going up on the theater and never rehearse. So part of the job of the counselor has to be spending time rehearsing, even knowing when to pause, even knowing when to look at who is in the audience. For example, if you are counter acting some argument that somebody is putting against your customer, and you know if that person is in the room, right? You have to know where he's sitting, and then the communicator, the presenter, has to look at that person and sincerely answer the question. So the communication strategy is not only the functional element, the information element, but most importantly is the emotional element. You have to be able, it's like part of the brand. It's the emotional function as well as uh the emotional benefit as well as a functional benefit. Most of the people just push out the information, but at the end they never get the impact they want, right? Because they never realize it's the human connection that's important. So, and then you have to know your stakeholders. I mentioned some of the stakeholders who are probably the direct stakeholders, but there are a lot of quiet stakeholders that they don't come out and support you. But if you did something wrong, they will come out and stab you in the back. So you have to know who are the stakeholders who you have to be careful about. And part of the problem is that what's the pain, what's the legacy of the company that you are advising. For example, like the Bank of Thailand, the legacy pain is the 19 oh what is it 1997 economic crisis, right? So whenever we want to attack the Bank of Thailand, they always say that we are the causer of the crisis. And then we have to go back and run around and correct all the information. So it's not always looking forward. You have to also prepare for history, for the legacy pains as well. Now, monitoring and evaluation, I will probably put together. For example, if you put out, let's say, a scheme or a PR or news, if some news about the customer, usually it should last not more than 3 days, right? The good news usually 1 to 3 days. The bad news, if it's 1 day, it's good. 3 days, it's cautionary. If it's more than 3 days, then you should be looking at a crisis prevention, because it means there are more players coming out into the news and providing some perspectives or some views or some evidence that you are not doing, or the company that you're looking after is not doing the right thing. So strategic communication is knowing the big picture, which is strategy. And then you have to know the communication process and the activities that I just mentioned. We can come back and you can ask about all this anytime. I only have like 6 slides to spend an hour with you. So next slide, please, Khan. Now, one of the difficulties, or rather the challenge of strategic communication is knowing where in the cycle your customers are. Now, because customers are in different cycles of their business. Let's say, for example, if they are on a rise, they are rising stars, they're on the leftmost hand side, then most of the information that come out of the company will be good news, right? But when you close to the peak, or when you are on the way down, or when you are at the bottom, or when you are recovering from the bottom, the strategy of designing communication counseling is very much different, because it means that you have to look forward as well as looking backward. Now, usually, most of the problem you encounter, let's say if you are an communication consultant and you have to go to your customer, usually there will be like a PR department, right? And they will like have certain things that they want you to say, but that's only part of the story. Being a counselor, you have to look at the overall, cycle of where the your customer is, and then you have to also analyze what kind of messages they have sent along the way in the past, and what kind of messages they are preparing to send in the future. Now, most of the problems is that they don't know, and they but in the TOR, they're the one who have to assess whether you've done what they wanted, right? So my strategy is always that dividing my contribution into two parts. One is giving what they want, which is less than what they should do in order to achieve what the company really needs. And the second is to deliver a little bit more, and deliver a little bit more, which is also a positive thing, because when they rely on you and they feel that they're dependent on your advice, they will come back. So my recommendation is not to give it all at one time, but to keep them hungry for your recommendations. And if not, it's not in the present term of the reference, you give just a little hint, and then they will come back to you for more work in the future. And this is one, because otherwise they'll ask more and more, and if you give more, then they won't come back to you in the future. Now, you find one word that I think is uh, quite useful, that is wisdom. Now, communication counseling is not only providing information or designing activities. We provide wisdom. We provide something that they don't have in the organization. And part of this is mostly is because most organizations don't see the communication department as strategic. They usually see communication department as administrative, and that's the reason why they want to hire you, right? And so in being strategic, you also have to be able to provide knowledge plus experience. Now, whenever before I agree to take this class, I always ask Dr. Smith, uh, what lectures do you give? Because I don't provide knowledge, I provide experience, and then when you combine with the knowledge that you get from lectures and universities, you will then formulate your own wisdom. Now, knowing your customer and the cycle of where your customer is very important. And in doing this and in knowing this, you have to have like five things that I listed. One is data. Like usually people say this and that, but then you need data to really assess whether their perception is right, whether people really like them. And they may say, oh, people like them, they put that your photograph, the customer photograph in the newspaper. But if you really read the keywords, you probably feel whether they're really neutral, or really they don't really like you. And then you have to analyze. I think your generation is much better than me at like data analysis, and like sentiment analysis, big data analysis, what kind of uh, words that I use that provide certain emotion. And then you have to try to provide some kind of diagnosis, whether if the situation is like this, what sort of options do you have? Sometimes you can take a defensive side. For example, that if someone give the wrong information, then you provide the information to counter that information, or sometime then this depends really on experience. For example, in my days as a spokesman of the Bank of Thailand, I always have like just a simple Excel sheet, and I will say if this issue, for example, exchange rate, baht dollar weakness or something, then I will have a table saying who says what, and what does the Bank of Thailand say, and then I'll monitor the actually the timing and the days, because then you know whether you are actually responding, you are defending, or you actually leading the issue. And usually I will try to finish every agenda within 1 or 2 days. For example, if let's say today news is the Ministry of Finance says this, and then the next day you counter that the Bank of Thailand said this, right? Then it becomes a conflict, right? And that's what newspaper loves, conflict, right? So if there is an agenda and uh, you can manage it within 1 day. For example, if you have a good relationship with a reporter, and then they say, I'm going to put a comment about the Ministry of Finance uh, today, then you provide the another information so that both arguments are reported within the same page, right? So that you have a balanced views. At the end of the day, you don't really want people to love you, but you don't want people to hate you either. But you want people to have a balanced view about you. Because of what? Because at the end of the day, it's the issue is about trust, which I'll talk about it a little bit later on. The different scenarios where where how the news could be, or the impact of your recommended strategy of of where, what, how, when certain message should be sent out. Now, sometime a lot of the counseling will involve damage control and crisis communication, and in that you have to have your own framework of how to deal with those things, and then we can explore that if you have questions. But the key issue is to know exactly what happened. Most of the time, organizations deal with bad news by pushing it away, but by pushing it away and not handling the real challenges makes it difficult to have really viable solution in future. Say if you lied or you don't know, or this is not true, and you have to come out and admit it in the future, that's really bad scenario, and we can talk about that a little bit more. uh, Now the third slide. Now the third slide deals with the structure of the internal structure of your customer. Now, most of the time, you will probably be talking with the PR department, right? And they only handle, let's say, 1/3 of the real challenge of the organization. And so the PR deals with communication functions, and most of the time, they don't really know the business. They know the PR activities there, but they don't really know the real business. And you need to get the real business people to come out and talk. But most of the time, these people don't have the communication skills, and they don't want to come out. So it's a battle between the PR, the PR people and the management that holds the real information. So you have to be able to link both and come out, and usually you have to try and do it through the CEO. Now, and in handling strategic communication, you have to know the tools that the organization or your customer usually use. Usually, it could be just press conference, or it could be press trip, or it could be lunch, or it could be marketing activities. But you have to design it in such a way that you know from the beginning to the end that you're receiving the impact that you want to have. Now, for example, and I think this is a little bit like a brand, overall brand management as well. For example, like when I started rebranding project of the Bank of Thailand, we found the key problem of the Bank of Thailand is accessibility because of the security issue. So it's very difficult for people to come from the front gate to the governor's office, right? So I asked my staff. What I did, I asked my staff to walk from the front gate to the governor's office and see what you see along the way, what experience visitors are gaining in terms of their functional or emotional impact from, and then I would come back and design every 20 to 25% of the journey. I'll I'll put in the wow, right? I put in the wow. For example, you might see, for example, a library. You might see some people come and visit or ask Q&A, or you might see some exhibitions or something like that. So in designing an event, a strategy communication event, you have to have an impact in mind and then move along the journey and then decide the elements of impact that you would like to put it in, to integrate it in, because at the end of the day that it's integrated communications, right? And then it's the experience that's really matter. So my recommendation would that be you would have a metrics. You would have a metric to say what, where, when, who, how, why, and then you would have impact that you desire to happen from an event, right? And then you would put all the information you have in this matrix, and then you look at the key information, and then you can design an event so that, for example, you know what kind of impact you want to have. One of the project I'm doing, which I mentioned a little bit, is the creating art experience. Now I'm an art collector, and I collect art from art students so that I support them financially while they are studying. Now, what I do to this is that how can we use artworks by young students to promote corporate brand, right? For example, now I have a partner, which is the restaurant Hotan at Siam Hotel, which is an art hotel, right? So I loan 17 of my art pieces to the restaurant, and then in May I will lend like 10 more, so that they will create 10 menus, 10 new menus individually for each painting. Now, if you are an event organizer, you won't understand art, right? And if you are an artist, you don't know how to organize an event, right? So we have somebody in between, which we call bad burgers, because we met at the burger joint uh, when the burgers weren't good. So, and three of us, one is me is an art collector, another is a photographer, another is a marketing manager of a hotel. So we form a little group that we provide art curating for corporate experience. So in designing experience, you can use a lot of tools. You can use art, you can use CSR, you can use a lot of things. So in this, I would like to just highlight to you that there are a lot of choices that you can use to design, because most of the time when I was in the corporate PR department, I have to choose from a lot of companies that come to pitch for the activities, for the brand activities, and a lot of the times they are generic. They're generic because they don't really know, they don't really know the culture, or they don't really know the real spirit of the company, that real spirit of the company that that your customer, that you are advising. So you have to know the internal organization of the company so that you can propose to the right people. You have to know what kind of tools they are familiar with, so that you won't be far out of what they usually do. Because if you proposing something that's so like rash, so unheard of, that they will usually feel like uh, 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 put off, right? uh, and in Thai culture, in many ways, it's hard because they will always ask, who have you done this for? And who is doing this? Because in many ways, if it's already been done, then the value of originality is already much less, right? And you can't really command the price. So you have to also be careful about all this. Right. Next slide, please, Khan. Okay. Uh, a lot of the time, people don't focus on trust. They focus on exposure. They focus on whether how many newspapers you get reported on. I really, I mean, personally, I hate it, like group photograph. You put little hearts, you put like signs, and then I find that too generic. But the real value of strategic communication is promoting trust of the organization, or promoting trust of the organizer. Now, this is the trust equation. The trust equation is I learned from uh, my training from Berkeley, executive coaching uh, from the States. And trustworthiness is a function of credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by self-orientation. So it means that if you are credible means you have a long record of providing the right information, being sincere, being truthful, being open, being accessible. And reliable means that when you need the information and you need to know something, they're open, they're accessible, they know that they uh, 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 the company accommodates the request of the customers or the news papers. And intimacy is a closeness, right? If you're intimate in the sense professionally, that you can ask difficult questions, and then answering difficult questions doesn't always have to be open to the public, but you are open to uh, allowing them to know what you think. Most of the time, the information you put out is already the output, but it's not the thinking process. But a lot of the times, uh, the customers or the news people or the reporters, they would love to know what's your logic, what kind of thinking you are about, so that they know that what happens in the future, then they can predict that in that kind of event, what kind of things you say, what kind of actions you do. And then self-orientation is under is a divisor, which means that the higher you self-oriented, the less trust people will have. For example, in the past, many years ago, the Bank of Thailand is very academic in their way of communication. So they use a lot of technical jargon, which means that it's very difficult for people in the street to understand. Makes it difficult for a lot of people to understand. So, but it's difficult to ask an economist to come out and explain in simple language to people who want to understand what happens to the Thai economy. So what I did is we created a set of brand ambassadors, a set of brand ambassadors who represent the Bank of Thailand in a more uh, understandable, more easily accessible way. So instead of like having wearing suits, shirts, and tie, we'll have them in polos and jeans, so that they go out and talk to people, so the people understand and see the organization as more accessible. So the whole this is the six slides already, right? อันที่ 6แล้วใช่ไหมครับท่าน Okay,
Yes,
so what I've presented to you. Oh, okay, that's the last one. The last one is about ensuring brand consistency and connecting with the main business strategy. So this is just a check or on the evaluation. That means that whatever advice you give on the communication side doesn't conflict with the brands. It doesn't say anything that sensitive that the brand doesn't say, and it means that it provides synergy with the business strategy. And my evaluation on this, my tick points on this will be that you set the right and achievable expectation of people who receive the message. You deliver the quick wins for the companies, so that when they hire you, they know that okay, they getting something good to report quickly to their boss. And then you also make them rely on you for future advice, and this means that the long and you know the long work relationships with them. What I try to provide you in like just within 40 minutes is the real nitty-gritty when you are the real counselors. It may not be the same way as you read from lectures or learn from marketing, but it's the key points that you in real life experience when you meet with your customers. So this is really the real the main part of my presentation. I want you to see video. It's like about 2 minutes. Uh, it's the launch of a new company called Enterprise Thailand. Now, Enterprise Thailand is like a matchmaker of investors from Thailand to uh, economic opportunities abroad, and investors from abroad who want to invest in Thailand, and I'm still there. I'm holding that name card as senior counselor. And then I'll tell you a bit more about that. But for the timing, can please show the video? Thank you. Well, thanks very much. The video presented an event that we launched the Enterprise Thailand. Enterprise Thailand is not set up yet as a company. It's a shareholding of three people who hold different companies, but they feel that there's opportunity of connecting investors abroad, as well as investors in Thailand. That day we had ambassadors and embassy representatives from Morocco, Kazakhstan, from Nigeria, and we had a former ambassador of Thailand in Africa. We had representatives from a lot of business, and our intention was to provide uh, an experience of what we could deliver as a communication counselor, as a strategy counselor for matching the business across the world. So that's effectively my presentation in 42 minutes. So I have 18 and more if you want. For answers and discussion. And thank you so much for your kind attention.
Okay ครับ thank you very much
Anyone
ค
who
รับ
would like to ask question, please feel free.
I would like to ask a question. First of all, my name is Sarah, and I'm from Indonesia. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your presentation. And previously in your presentation, you mentioned about the economic crisis in Thailand in 1997. That thing also happened to Indonesia. I was not born yet at that time, but my parents and everyone told me about what happened back then. It's not only in Thailand, but also in Indonesia and some Southeast Asian countries as well. And I'm wondering, how was it back then in 1997, as right now that with the rising of social media, people would be so much more demanding for for clarification, for information. And as a strategic communicator, how would you compare people back then in 1997, where they were not so much social media or technology, compared to these days, where technology or social media is rising? And what do you think about that? That's my question. Thank you.
That's really a wonderful question. Um and looking back, I was only like 31 or something. So many years ago. And then I was actually I was one of the negotiator with the IMF, who came to Thailand. And to be honest, I think if social media exists then, the crisis would have been much deeper, because uh, the, really the heart of the crisis is fear, right? Heart of crisis is fear and trying to get out as quickly as possible. And I think the social media has both the advantages and the disadvantages. The advantage is speed, right? The speed and the diversity of use. But the disadvantage is really the what do you call the correctness or sometime in crisis you fear ahead of time, it really provokes even more crisis. It's self-fulfilling. I think I think that's a key word for crisis, is self-fulfilling. If you think something will happen, you act in such a way that eventually it will happen, and that's I think made the crisis worse. But in terms of public awareness or public safety, I think social media is also a very controversial tool. So let's say, but I think this is something very interesting. If we have like an experiment, that what happened if social media exists in 1997, what would the central banks in Asia, what would the IMF do, right? Because the key development at that time is the exit of foreign capital, right? Because at that time Asia relied very much on foreign capital. So what happened in the crisis is foreign capital left Asia, right? Which means that all the foreign currency reserves left our countries. So we need the money from the IMF, right? So if the IMF takes like 2 weeks or 1 month to decide whether to help the country will gone bankrupt already. And I think this is an amazing question. I should put it to the IMF that they should do the stress test right now, that if crisis happen again, how fast can you provide financial support to Asia? Because it's a self-fulfilling nature of social media that is very, very scary. I hope I answered the question. Uh,
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. It answered my question. Thank you.
right. Well, please feel free to even or share your views, or being 57, I also afraid of being irrelevant. Is this what I've shared with you? Do you think it's relevant to what you plan to do in the future, or is it raising any unexpected question?
Oh, I have a question. You
Yes,
talked
please.
about trustworthiness as an element to focus on rather than exposure and reach that most media people tend to focus on. I'm wondering, do you think that there is a specific balance, or are there some circumstances where maybe speed is more important, or is trustworthiness just kind of like a basic things you should prioritize in every case? Thank you.
Yeah. I think that it's the need to balance. Now, usually speed comes first, right? Speed comes first because everyone wants to be the first to report, right? The latest development. But for example, a lot of especially for crisis management, you don't know the whole story yet, right? So the more you put out, it's dangerous for future communication. So you have to have the pacing, the right pacing for speed, the right pacing for speed, which means that okay, we've detected this, right? We have detected this, and we are finding out more information on certain issues, and we are exploring uh, certain solutions. And I think this is probably adequate to start off, so that they can go, and in the meantime, then you need time to search for more information. But I think your answer is interesting in the sense that there's a right balance between the PR department and the line department, because usually the PR department would probably like to push out more information, but the line department wouldn't want to give out information because they're afraid of something might happen next, right? So what usually you could do, and this is linked to trustworthiness, is because that the philosophy of our company is 1, 2, 3, right? And in this kind of incident, our approach would be 1, 2, 3, and we are looking for more evidence to confirm before we take actions 1, 2, 3, right? And this allow them the journey of enough information, and then you have, let's say, 2 more hours to work before you put out some more evidence. But part of the problem I see in a lot of places is that when there's like issues like this, they bring out the expert, right? And the expert doesn't speak the normal language. They speak very technical jargons, and it makes it unreliable in many ways, because it means you're not caring enough. You're not caring enough of who's affected. For example, let me give you an example. Uh, in the past, when they find bank counterfeited banknotes, right? Then the Bank of Thailand in the past came out and said this is only 0.0001%, or something. uh, this means that you don't really care, right? Because the governor at that time said, if you lose 1,000 baht because it's a counterfeited banknote, it's 1,000 baht loss to that person. So we changed the message completely. That we are aware of the situation, and this happens during the evening when the light is low and people don't see. So we urge you to be careful, and we are taking all the necessary actions. So the message became different just with one word: caring. So if the company cares about the customer or the general public, the message would be totally different. But if the company cares only about their own image, the message would be different. So that's what what a communication counselor do. You put out a portfolio, a choice of what kind of message, and you say, how caring do you want to be? They probably hate you, but it's part of your job, right? To say that this is not caring enough. This is not consistent with your brand image. If your brand image is about caring about your customer, this is not the kind of message you will put out, right? So it comes with years of practice as well, but it's an excellent question. Yep.
Also, just to follow up, in
Yep.
general, how many options should you provide a client as to how you
Uh,
should deal with a specific crisis?
I usually, I think two, and you have one other in your pocket if you don't if they're not satisfied with two, right? But if you provide them with too many, then they can't make the decision. So two, for me, two is usually good. But if I'm a customer, I will ask, what's your rationale to propose this to? So you have to know your thinking, that your thinking is this, and this works for certain scenarios, this works for certain scenarios, and you can have a combination, and you may have a third in your pocket, but sometimes you don't usually don't have enough time to do that much homework. John, do you have a question?
Oh, why you asked me? So actually I have I'm just curious because you say that you've been working in the bank industry for like 25 years. So I just want to know, the differences from your observation, the differences as a communication counselor in the bank industry and other industry. That's my first question. And my second question is like, if right now you're not retired, but you are going to like do the same job, but in industry, what industry are you going to?
Oh, that's a hard question. One, I think banking industry really relies on trust, and really relies on reliability, credibility and reliability. So the message has all the messages have to be consistent, and for a lot of banks, they have to be sort of forward looking, right? Forward looking in the sense that what you see in the future, so that people will rely on you in taking the journey forward. Now, uh, the second question is sort of hard, but in a way, my love, my passion now is in the creative economy. My is in the creative economy because uh now I work with a lot of local artists, a lot of local designers, and then uh I feel that they have a lot of wonderful things, uh but in a lot of ways they don't have the storytelling power to pitch it, to do it, and that's why that's why I started as an art collector, and I became an art collector, and I support a lot of young artists so that they actually link back to their villages, their communities. I think creative economy is something of the future of the world, because at the end of the day, what can be done by AI, what can be done through technology is going to be cost competitive. But in the future, there will be hunger for some what I call healing. At 57, I can say something about healing process. I think in the future, healing will be something that people will be looking for, because it's so competitive. It's hard, right? And then actually, today I'm talking to you from Phra, which is a very very small province in the north of Thailand. It's the poorest, one of the poorest province in the north of Thailand, but it's a wonderful place to be. So I hope I think the answer will be creative economy.
No, because I mean, my question is not, asking yeah, the industry that you're going to next, but my question is more like, I just want to know, because we are studying communication, so I just want
Okay.
to know more like the transferable skill, that the bigger picture. Let's say career pattern stuff. No,
Ah,
you answer my question already. I just share my rationale, like why I asked the question. So I want to see like the bigger picture. If like we want to do something else, that than the PR and other stuff, we also have the option to do that if possible. Yeah.
I think your generation is very challenging, because very challenging indeed, and that's what I say. I'm afraid I got old in time. So because in the past life is like career is about climbing up the pyramid, right? Because if you are in a higher pyramid, you control the resources below. But in the new world, in your world, uh, bot, uh, it's a reverse pyramid. It's you can connect anywhere. Even if you are at the bottom of the pyramid, you can connect with any other pyramids that flying in the universe, right? And I think that's very hard. But I think my suggestion would be you have to be great at something. You have to be top of mind. You have to be top of mind. Your skill has to be top of mind of something. Uh, 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 and then and then people will search for you. People will search for you because you can never know what I cannot predict what kind of activities would be in the future, what kind of industry would be in the future. But the element of the skills that they need for that industry to prosper, uh, then you look at the skills, right? Not the industry. You look at the skills, and then you have to be top 5 of that skill in the country, in the region, in the world. And then whatever industry that needs that skill will look for you. I think that will be my recommendation because a lot even today because I when I retire I learned as an executive coach, and today I talk to my peer executive coach, and they say we will be disrupted because AI can coach people better, because people can key the question and the AI will come back with the question, right? Because the real skill of coaching is asking the question. And if AI can ask uh, better questions than coaches, then we'll be dead, right? So 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 the challenge will be to jump quickly on your scale of skills so that you will remain at the top 5, and whatever industry need that skill, they know where to find you. And I think accessibility is important. Thank you, John, for the question.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's very interesting. Yeah, thank you.
ป๊อบจะถามไหมครับ
I have no question ครับ
Okay, thank you. So I hope my presentation and my time with you today is fruitful and productive. And if you have any follow-up question, please let Khan or Dr. Smith know. I will be so happy to even spend time talking with you. It's always my pleasure to work with the younger generation. I don't grow anymore professionally in my time, but I love being part of your growth. So please feel free to connect with me. Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Khan.
Thank you อาจารย์ Thank you so much
Thank you ค่ะ
ขอบคุณครับ
โอเคครับRishi how are you ครับ Hello โอเค